Hey all, and welcome to my vlog. My name is Erin, and today we're going to be talking about trigger warnings. I'm going to cover what a trigger is, what happens when someone is triggered, what a trigger warning is, what their purpose is, where they already exist, and some of the controversies surrounding it. Number 1. What is a trigger? A trigger is something that makes a person involuntarily relive their trauma. The key word here is involuntary. They cannot control having this reaction. These responses can be things like flashbacks, panic attacks, etc. They are related to post-traumatic stress disorder and other panic disorders. There's a misconception as to what triggers are because the word is grossly misused by a lot of people. It does not mean that you are upset or even that you are deeply disturbed by something. It means that you are forcibly reliving a trauma that you have experienced. Anything can be a trigger. They are very specific and unique to a person's individual experience and trauma, which means that triggers can be different for everyone. The most common depiction in media that I've seen is veterans with PTSD having flashbacks when they experience fireworks or gunshots. But I've also read about people having much more common triggers, such as the sound of ambulances, or even something so common as the sound of a garage door opening because it signals to their brain that their abuser could be coming home. Similarly, if you were attacked by a dog, you might have a panic attack if one runs up to you. People can be traumatized for a variety of reasons, and that means that the triggers that prompt those panics are going to be equally varied. Number 2, what happens when someone is triggered? This is going to vary from person to person, but I'll do my best to explain. When a person is mentally reliving their trauma, that means that their body is also experiencing it through the stress responses. The resulting panic attacks typically last between 10 minutes to an hour. They may struggle to breathe or have a racing heart. They might dissociate. Their body might go into a fight or flight mode. They might experience chest pain, dizziness, nausea, or numbness. They might legitimately feel like they are about to die. It can interfere with memory formation and leaves people exhausted and with anxiety long after the attack passes. Even if you choose to disregard the mental toll something like that would take on a person, you cannot disregard the physical ramifications of your body being in an extremely high stress response for that long. In fact, many people experiencing their first few panic attacks believe that they're having a heart attack and seek immediate medical attention. The trigger can prompt both a mental and a physiological response in a person that completely incapacitates them. Number 3, what is a trigger warning? A trigger or content warning is a message to readers or viewers that the media they are about to consume contains potentially upsetting content. That's it. Because triggers themselves can be extremely specific, what we tend to see here are broader content warnings. They're just alerting people that there is sensitive media. Some people think that trigger warnings are for special snowflakes, and some people are assholes. Content warnings are not that complicated or deep, and yet there are still some people who are trying to prove that the concept of them is coddling our generation. I hate to break it to those people, but content warnings have been around since at least the 60s. They are not a new thing, but because there has been a recent push online for them to be included in books and classrooms, people are treating it as though it's a new phenomenon, and that's just not the case. Number 4, what is the purpose of a trigger warning? Trigger and content warnings are to allow those who've experienced trauma to either mentally prepare themselves to engage with the material or to allow them to avoid it as necessary. They also allow the average person to simply not consume content that they don't want to consume. Even if someone is not going to be triggered, they are a compassionate way to let people know that if they choose to continue consuming this media, they may encounter something upsetting. Content warnings allow you to choose music that is free of explicit lyrics, or choose a family-friendly movie. But for some reason when it's come to books, there's been a backlash. What is so horrible about allowing people to make an educated decision about the media they're choosing to consume? Content warnings would be present in books so that if you don't want to read a book that contains someone being raped or lynched or any number of other horrible things, you are educated enough to choose to not read it. Number 5, where do content warnings already exist? Think about when you've watched the news and a message pops up saying the following content may be distressing to some viewers. That's a content warning, letting you know that what you're about to see could be upsetting to some people and to give them the opportunity to avoid it. Or think about the rating system on movies and video games. Those are letting you know that the content may not be suitable for everyone. In the same way that you might preface a movie with a lot of flashing lights with an epilepsy warning, a content or trigger warning is accommodating for the people who might suffer an adverse reaction to the content. The next example is not actually media related at all, but menus and ingredient lists are also forms of content warnings. You could think of a trigger like an allergen. If you don't know that your allergen is in a food because the menu doesn't say or there's no available ingredient list, then you run the risk of sending yourself to the hospital. The same goes if a person with PTSD consumes a piece of media and is blindsided by their trauma because someone didn't decide to tell them it was there. Encountering the allergen is going to provoke a physiological response. Because triggers can be so varied and personal, what we tend to warn for are broader concepts such as sexual violence, death, war, murder, gore, etc. These cover the base experiences of a lot of traumas, and as such, the people who are traumatized by those things are alerted that their triggers may be present. Required reading and other necessary consumption of media happens, but that is not what I'm talking about here. I'm talking about the reading that people do for enjoyment. We already select our books for their content. You choose based on the genre, the age range, the setting, so why is it suddenly a big deal for people to choose based on whether it includes traumatic content or not? In the same way that someone might choose pop music to feel upbeat or listen to a forlorn love song after a breakup, you should be able to choose the books that you read to suit your needs at the time. There seems to be the thought that people who would rely on trigger warnings would somehow be able to avoid all distressing things by avoiding that media. I don't know if you've looked at the world lately, but there's a lot of distressing stuff going on. If people don't want to fill their leisure time with upsetting content or content that is going to trigger a panic attack, that should be their choice. You wouldn't get mad at a person with an allergy for not consuming a bag of peanuts, so why are we getting mad about this? I don't personally have PTSD or an anxiety disorder, but I would still super appreciate a book letting me know if it contains rape or pedophilia or what the fuck ever that I don't feel like reading. I do not have to consume media if I don't want to. I am a grown-ass adult who makes their own choices about what to spend their time and money on. And if I don't want to spend those things on distressing content, that should be my right. I am not unable to cope with the world. I do not think that those books shouldn't exist. But I do think readers should be able to be informed when they're selecting what they want to read. So that's all I've got for you today. Thank you so much for watching. I hope this video was helpful. If you liked this video, give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe. If you'd like to be notified as soon as I upload, then ring that bell. All my social media links will be in the description below. Both of my books, Olympian Confessions, Hades and Persephone, and Olympian Confessions, Hera, are available now in ebook and paperback. If you'd like your manuscript critiqued by me, you can check out my new critique service. Links to all of those will be on my website below. If you've enjoyed my content, consider being part of my Patreon family. And I will see you all next week with another vlog. Bye!